Hello, my name is Steve Beacle and welcome to Tying Shumakov Tubes, sponsored by CudaFly. Shumakov Tubes are the very latest in tube fly design. Traditionally, we have tied our salmon tubes on either plastic, copper or aluminium tubes. More recently, we have been tying our flies on bottle tubes. With all of these tubes, we have always tied the fly itself on the actual tube body. The main difference with the Shumakov tubes is that there is an inner plastic sleeve. On all of the Shumakov tubes, apart from the bottle tube, we tie on this inner plastic sleeve. Because we're tying on this inner plastic sleeve, there are quite a number of subtle differences that we need to master to get the best from our salmon fly tubes using the Shumakov tube system. Now, the advantage with using Shumakov tubes is this inner plastic sleeve provides less resistance when we're actually fishing our flies. Therefore, the fly can move freely up and down the line once the bite has been taken. Also, because there is less resistance, we have a greater bite sensitivity when we are lucky enough to catch our salmon. And again, because of the less friction, there is less wear on our leader, so that when we do catch a salmon, we've got less chance of any form of a break-off. The Shumakov tubes are available in a range of sizes and shapes for different fishing situations. For each of the tubes, we'll explain each of these further later on in the video. To actually tie these tubes, most of the equipment that you are using for tying your traditional tubes, you will already have. I'll go through each of the tool requirements now. I won't go in depth for how to use each of the tools, because this video is really geared up for somebody who's got a little bit of experience with the fly tying, and it is assumed that each of the tools can be used competently. We're mainly going to concentrate on how to tie the actual Shumakov tube. Now, as ever, I have two pairs of scissors, a heavier set, obviously for heavier work, and a finer set for close-up work, straight and tight into that tube. Whip finish tool, hackle pliers, in this case a rotary set, bobbin threaders, a dubbing needle for applying varnish and maybe removing some extraneous hackle material, because most of these tubes are heavily hackled. Our bobbin holders. Obviously, with the bobbin holders, we're going to need a range of threads. Because we're using a lot of hair in these flies, be it bucktail, Arctic fox, silver fox, etc., we're going to need a lot of wax. To clean any of our hair material, we're going to need a hair comb. And last but not least, to make sure all those materials are nice and straight for our wings, a hair stacker. To actually tie the Shumakov tubes, you have two options. We can either use our standard vise that we would say use for trout or salt water, or we can actually have a dedicated tube vise. In this case, I have the Snowy Waldron with CudaFly attachment. I've got plenty of tube vices at home. However, what I find that this is the only tube vise available on the market that's supplied with the correct needle for the Shumakov tubes. If you don't have access to a CudaFly vise at home, we can use our standard vise by simply using a sewing needle, which we need when we prepare the inner sleeves of the Shumakov tubes. Here I have a pre-prepared inner sleeve. For preparation details, you will see as we tie each of the individual flies. I will then slide that inner tube until the end of that inner tube is over the eye of that needle, and the eye of the needle will stop that inner tube from rotating. Then we put that needle into our vise as so, but with the end or the jaws of the vise touching the furled end of our inner sleeve from the Shumakov tube. We then simply slide on our desired Shumakov tube, in this case a long range 4mm aluminium, and then we would continue to tie as so and complete the fly using our standard vise. To prepare the banding on Shumakov tubes, take a household needle, or if you wish a dubbing needle, dip that needle into your preferred colour of varnish, apply it liberally to the grooves where the banding is. I'm doing it so, just going to get right round the corner. There we go. Just wipe your needle and take some kitchen roll or toilet roll and begin to wipe off that excess varnish. As so. Takes a wee bit of time to just make sure every bit of surplus has been removed. There we go. And there you have your prepared Shumakov tube ready for tying.
The skittle brass tube is the one with the best balance among all heavy tubes. It has enough weight at the front end to push the fly down and hold it firmly in the current. The rear part is thin and not that different from the so-called US tubes of the fly company. Its front cone helps to hold the fare up and mount wings at the best angle. This means the wings of the hare stay far from the hook, so it helps to prevent tangling. One variant has grooves on the rear part of the thickening which can be dyed. The long-range brass tube was conceived to reach the deepest lies. To make the rear part lighter, the body has been cut in 4 places. At the same time, if these grooves are dyed with a different colour varnish, the body doesn't look as naked as on other brands. The summer era brass tubes are in fact a cone head mutant. The idea behind the arrow is to tie light summer tubes without using cone heads. The 4mm arrow is light as looped summer bottlenecked brass tubes and doesn't have unnecessary details like a metal neck or complicated tubing holder at the rear part of the tube. The front cone has the same advantages as for skittle tubes. The size rear part for hook holding permits use both with thin and thick silicone tubing.